If you spent your childhood watching Saturday morning cartoons and your adulthood scrolling through TikTok, you are part of a psychological experiment that will never happen again. You are a 90s kid. You aren't just millennials. You are the last group of humans to experience a free childhood. You didn't have an iPad in your stroller. You didn't have GPS tracking in your pocket. You just had a bike and a rule. Come home when the streetlights come on. But psychology suggests that growing up in that colorful, slow world and then waking up in this gray, hyper-fast digital world has created a glitch in your brain. You feel a specific type of exhaustion that younger generations don't understand, and today we are going to explain why. The first major trait of the 90s kid is the unsupervised brain. In the 90s, privacy wasn't a luxury, it was your default state. You could vanish for hours. You solved your own problems. If you fell off your bike, you didn't text your mom, you just walked it off. Psychologists call this anti-fragility. You learned that the world was physical, risky, and real. But today, you live in a world of constant surveillance, read receipts, location sharing, last seen online. Your 90s brain craves that freedom, but your modern life is trapped in a digital cage. This is why you love comfort content, rewatching The Office or old Disney movies. You aren't just watching TV, you are trying to travel back to a time when you felt safe without being watched. The second psychological shift is the death of wonder. Do you remember the feeling of walking into a Blockbuster on a Friday night, the smell of the popcorn, the excitement of picking the one movie you would watch all weekend? That feeling was called scarcity value. Because you couldn't have everything, the things you did have felt magical. Getting a new video game was a life event. Today, you have Netflix, Steam, and Spotify. You have everything instantly. But psychology tells us that abundance kills value. This is why you scroll through Netflix for 30 minutes and pick nothing. Your brain is overwhelmed by choice. You miss the 90s not because the movies were better, but because the feeling of choosing them mattered. Finally, there's the Peter Pan effect. Have you noticed that 90s kids don't feel like adults even when they're 30 or 35? In the past, adulthood meant buying a house, wearing a suit, and becoming serious. But the 90s told you a different story. You were raised by pop culture that celebrated being a kid forever. Toys, cartoons, and video games weren't just for toddlers, they were a lifestyle. So now, as an adult, you reject the boring version of maturity. You still play video games, you still wear hoodies, you still collect things. Society might call this immature, but psychologists call it preserving the inner child. You are redefining what it means to be a grown-up in a world that takes itself too seriously. So, if you feel out of place in 2026, it's because you're a time traveler. You have the memories of a slower, brighter world stored in your DNA. You are the bridge between the analog past and the digital future. The 90s are gone, but the creativity, the resilience, and the magic you learned there, that is the one thing the internet can never download.